Scoundrels web series and podcast is filmed and recorded in their ship, the Centurion Vulture, and may contain language not suitable for all. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Scoundrels, y'all. We are broadcasting from the Centurion Vulture. I am CG.
I am Paul Bannister.
Curtis Wayne Miller standing by.
We are three grown-ass men gathered as always to discuss Star Wars. Ahsoka Episode 4 is the latest. I'm not going to say greatest, but it's the latest. Normally, this is the part where we would do a lateral pass to our dear Captain Curtis Millard for a rewind.
What's up, y'all?
But I think in lieu of a rewind, we got to talk about something that for the three of us is the elephant in the room. Now look, we know
it's the
that
big bantha in the room.
A giant group of about...
It's a rancor!
A giant group of about 7 people who are following our show.
Yeah.
So to our 7 followers,
like
or whoever
80,
they are.
there might be 80 of them.
Yeah.
God love you if you're one of them.
Yeah, we love you.
We love you.
If you guys are feeling us, because we feel y'all.
We're at a crossroads. None of us, and we'll talk about, to be clear, we will discuss this specific episode here in a moment, but we want to bring this up first. We're not having a great time with Ahsoka, or let me start with me, and then you guys can, and then we'll speak as a group. I'm not having a great time with Ahsoka. I didn't have a good time at all with the 3rd season of Mandalorian. I kind of hit a threshold with this new episode of Ahsoka where it kind of became clear to me that the things they could do to make this worth it for me is clearly not gonna happen. And if I'm honest, for the first time, I am not. It's not even that I'm mad about it. I'm not that interested.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I'm not anticipating the next episode of this show, nor did I for season 3 of Mandalorian. And we are having this moment of, like, straight up, Curtis puts a lot of work into this. It's a lot of time. And while we're super buds and we'll always talk Star Wars, the three of us, forever, it's kind of trying to decide if it's worth it to keep doing this, because we're at a point, I am at a point where I feel like I am making myself watch these new shows to do Scoundrels. And I love doing
It's
Scoundrels.
for that podcast, not because we are dying to see Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Personally.
And if the podcast was mindless and it took no effort or heavy lifting to be done, I think we would probably all just be like, fuck it, let's just have fun and do it whenever it's relevant. But
just for us,
Yeah.
whenever the fuck we actually enjoy something.
Yeah.
but it's a lot of work, especially for Curtis. So we don't really know where we're going with this.
There could be a version where it is a little more dressed down, and we're just literally just riffing on the shit that we absolutely are elated by, which I think we can get to. I think we can totally do it. I've been thinking about how that could look, but we the three of us haven't actually really discussed it.
It kind of shook out when we were texting about how we were not. If I'm speaking again for myself, how I didn't enjoy this episode, and it's not that this was the worst episode I've ever seen of a Star Wars series. In fact, there were episodes of season 3 of Mandalorian that were way fucking worse than this new episode of Ahsoka. It's more like I've hit a threshold, and okay, I see where they're going now as a franchise in a lot of these shows, and I don't think it's us. I don't think it's good. I think it's.
They're not making it for us, dude. They're not making it for the old heads at all. They're making it for the.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you're not making something for me. I'd be happy. It'd be nice if I did not have to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is something I've touched on in previous episodes, but where it came from in my comment to these guys when we texted about it yesterday was, I am officially at that precipice of, I feel like I need to protect my own Star Wars experience.
Yeah.
Because I think the more I watch things like this that are just bad and poorly written and poorly executed, I'm not convinced that it's not going to start to water down and affect my overall appreciation for something that I've enjoyed since I was a child. And I'm just not sure that I'm
to watch Attack of the Clones every week.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna seep in.
And I don't know. So again, I'm not like saying I will never watch another episode of Ahsoka, but I'm in no hurry.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't-
maybe.
yeah.
Well, it's like you said it like it's like we brought it up a couple episodes ago. It's like, what will it take for us to stop watching Star Wars? And we always talk about, well, it's so easy to watch because, you know, it's on Disney, you can watch it. But man, after this season, I had high hopes. Not high hopes, just some hope that it would be something we can relate to.
Mystical or something.
Yeah, something. And then after this episode, which is so funny, I feel like everyone thought this episode, I thought this was by far the worst episode thus far.
I actually did not think that.
Which I think is hilarious. I thought this was, and we talked about what would it take for me to not watch new stuff, and it was like this episode, and then seeing like when the skeleton crew, they showed the pirate face from Mando season 3, the one like the Power Rangers villain, that he's going to be in that show. So I'm like, well, that's probably going to be
what
remember
happened?
in episode 1 of season 3 Mando had those pirates showed up on the planet where Action Jackson is.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Yeah, they
Action
just showed a
Jackson.
picture of Jude Law and that pirate, so I have a feeling those pirate characters are going to be in
Oh,
the
Moss
skeleton
Pirate?
Fuck's
Yeah.
sake,
Pizza the
are
Hut.
you serious?
Dude, that Moss Pirate's a dumbass.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah,
that
dude,
they
we're
ju-
fucked.
I don't know. They just had those
That's
pictures
a bummer.
together.
That's a bummer
those
for
were-
me because I was holding out hopes for that show. I think John
Yeah,
Watts
I
is
mean-
a smart dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean
Well,
that could just be
one of
someone
the-
putting up like pictures together. So I don't know. But that I was like, man, if they bring in those, like if they bring that type of look and that kind of attitude to Skeleton Crew, then I'll just be like, pfft, like what the hell?
Yeah.
But
Like one, it's like not great for us. We don't love it. 2, there is a little work involved, so that just adds to the bummer. It's like you're kind of working for something that you don't love. And then 3, that means we have to get on a public, quote unquote public, forum, and then be negative for an hour.
Yeah.
So it's like a triple dick punch.
yeah, both
said.
balls and the shaft, just boom, boom,
And no
up.
one's like, we're not grumpy old dudes, honestly.
No, we're
like
pretty-
we are not. Like we don't want to be grumpy and like be like fuck this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know?
It's like, does anyone really need a podcast of 3 guys just complaining? Because I feel like it's turning into that, if I'm honest. I don't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
the last
Well,
time I got on an episode
Yeah.
with you guys and was like, fuck yeah, that was so good and this felt
It
great.
was indoor.
it was Andor.
Yeah, I know. There was Andor. And remember how much fun that was? I was so fucking
it was
stoked
awesome.
to watch
I was
every
elated.
week.
Man, if Mando season 3 wasn't absolute fucking garbage, maybe we could stick
Yeah.
to this. But I think it's just like
2 shows in
just
a
been
row.
beat down.
2 shows in a row of just, and you were right, Paul. For some reason, I thought Andor was 6. It was 10. They would just goes to show. It's like, wow, they did 10 full episodes of just phenomenal work. And this,
And I'm sure
I mean,
the second season will be great. You know,
it's- yeah.
and I'll
It's
be
hard to believe it even exists.
it really
I'll
is
be
hard to
ready.
believe.
That's how good it is.
I'll be ready the second the episode's available for season 2 of Andor. Sitting there
you know
ready
what?
to
I
go.
think I do have some ideas on how we can cover those.
Yeah.
Without me having I think there's a version of it where it's just a hobby for us, and if it ends up happening, then so be it.
Yeah,
I mean,
go back to the
look,
drawing board.
the straight up easiest thing is we could just be doing audio only podcast episodes for a while, and then if like every handful of months we have a reason to feel like we're stoked and it's worth pulling the cameras out and doing one visual. You know, that the audio is so much. I mean, you guys know, like when I send. So the way we do it is we do this. They send me the audio. I finish the audio and I send it to Curtis, and he does his magic. But the spitting out of the audio literally takes maybe 15 minutes tops.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, not to get too inside baseball,
Yeah.
but we could do a visual version if I'm not cutting to a bunch of cameras either. That would take me less than an hour.
Ooh.
Okay.
See, look at us. We're figuring this out together. And
Okay.
it's,
But I still say we only do the things that we like.
Yeah.
Because fuck this,
No.
man. We're
look,
not
let's-
getting any younger.
let's not get too into the weeds on the technical stuff. The three of
Yeah.
us can. But
Yeah.
point is, disclaimer: we don't know where we're going yet. So the short version is there might not be an episode next week about episode 5 of Ahsoka because I don't think any of us are dying to watch it. To be honest,
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen.
Or that if we do, we're not going
It
to come
might
back with a list of things that we are bummed about. And I will use that as a segue to move on to this episode. And CG, I understand you've prepared some talking points of how you
just,
feel on this
you
newest
know,
episode of Ahsoka.
Well, I'm watching. I started
Talking
thinking about,
points.
because like I say, we got every week. You got a week to really think about each episode. And then I was like, okay, and then you just start poking holes and stuff. And Filoni, and I went back and I watched Rebels and I watched the final season of Clone Wars, and we're supposed to take these characters and and Filoni will bring in every character we love and just toss him he's a cartoon guy. The guy was made, he was born to make cartoons, and he's good at it. Like Last Airbender was a good show. I mean, the last season but he's bringing these characters into the real world, and we're supposed to bring all the baggage they bring along with it. And he has zero like conscience of bringing back dead characters or trying to loophole these things in. And the first shot of this season, Ahsoka, is when they go get Morgan. Now, I looked at the timeline. This takes place long after both Book of Boba Fett and so it's Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, then Ahsoka. So she captures Morgan in season 2 of Mandalorian. So now they're just, after all these years, they're just now transferring her to be questioned on this ship.
Oh, yeah. How many years is it?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not that, but also, why are they just floating in space because they say to transfer her to question? And why aren't you in hyperspace to your destination like every other ship in Star Wars? So it's just like these kind of things just bug me. And then at the end
there's a lot of bullshit, yeah.
At the end of Rebel, like we have this thing that Sabine has from Ezra. I was like, what? How did he get this video message? He didn't know he was going to get sucked away by space whales. How did he think about? So he's like breaking his own story rules. And he apparently he went to George and he wanted to bring back a bunch of dead Jedi, and George had to tell him, no, you can't. They're dead. Like, can you bring back Pilo, Flo, and all this? Can I bring them back? Like, he's like a kid, like, what can I play with them?
So he wants to bring back more people than they actually have?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, who the fuck? I don't even know who it is that you just said he wanted to bring back.
It's some Jedi he put a lot in the Clone Wars. That was, I guess, a big influence on Ahsoka. And George Lucas had to tell him, no, he's dead. Like, he's absolutely dead. And, I mean, and I saw this thing with... Freddie Prinze Jr., who voiced Kanan, our dude.
Freddie Prinze Jr.
In Rebels, the Prince.
What a name. I love that.
And he was on this rant like, this Star Wars is for kids, and all these older, fans, they need to accept it. I was like, okay, listen. Ratatouille and Toy Story made for kids, but they're still good. They're still really good movies. Don't use... I hate that excuse. That's saying, like, I feel like that is their cop-out into saying, well, it's for kids, so it can be shitty. It's like, no. Toy Story is a great movie.
Dude, how many I know a lot of kids debates have ever been in a child's film.
Yeah,
how many times
I totally agree. It's bullshit.
But you also like there was a lot of arms being cut off and shit. To be complete, it's PG. Like, I don't know. It's kind of both. It's not just a child's thing. I mean, I agreed. Phantom Menace is all farty joke and childish as fuck. But I don't think Empire Strikes Back is, dude.
Oh, no. A lot of. I mean, even friggin' in the Clone Wars episode 2. What is it? Boba Fett, not Boba Fett. His dad, Jango Fett, gets his head chopped off.
Jango,
just straight up. It's chopped off. But I mean,
if you didn't know who Boba or Jango was, and just by their first names, they sound like some bitches.
But Paul, you were right. The Merrick thing.
Hey, Boba and Jango are after you. Like, who gives a fuck? Boba,
Jango sounds like a T.
Boba and Jango are on your trail.
You know what they sound
Boba
like,
Fett,
Curtis?
I love Boba Fett so much.
You know what those names sound like? It sounds like a couple fucking dickweeds.
A couple of dickweeds. There you go.
Bona-fide dickweeds.
Yeah, exactly.
With no training.
But I thought I know, Curtis, you say you didn't. I mean, I'm curious to know what, because for me, this was...
Well, dude, this is like the least agree. I just enjoyed, it's just fights, dude. Like, the fights were great. And that's all. But that shit at the end was dumb.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem.
I was like, y'all couldn't even you couldn't help it, could you?
No, he can't.
You just couldn't fucking help it.
It just didn't.
I don't know. I'm not terribly mad in Ahsoka on the production value. I think that's part of the thing I'm not... Like, for the most part, the shots are good. The fights are done relatively well within the world of Star Wars. Like, there's not really anything from a technical standpoint, with the exception of maybe some of the makeup seeming a little too cartoony. With that one gripe, it's not like when I watched Obi-Wan and I actively, during the episodes, had moments like, this looks cheap. This looks low budge.
Feels cheap, right?
And I don't have any of that with Ahsoka. It's just the storytelling. It's lazy. It's uninspired. It's so cheap, and like I'm exhausted now. I agree with Curtis that this was not a terrible episode in a vacuum to me. For me though, what it became was it was the straw that broke the camel's back of a series of episodes, starting with season 3 of Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, and now going into this, where it's clear where they're going with the franchise and these shows, and I think it's all just really poorly done, and it doesn't feel like Star Wars anymore. They're insulting my intelligence by just saying, well, we can just put lightsaber fights in and have ships that look and sound cool and feel like Star Wars, and that'll be enough.
And then kind of gaslighting you. Like, if you have like a legitimate criticism, it's like, well, it's just for children.
Yeah.
It's not for children.
I hate that excuse. I'm sick of that excuse.
Fuck off then.
I'm sick of it.
It's also,
you are absolutely right.
Ahsoka is particularly, I think the reason, it's not, again, from a production standpoint, this episode didn't bother me, but it was clear with what, my whole thing when I've watched the first 2 episodes, and I was like, you know what? Could have been worse. Because I kind of assumed that they would give us little flashbacks to flesh out the characters for why we should care, but they clearly aren't. They just assume you've watched Rebels and Clone Wars and you know all the backstory, and you're just supposed to, all these moments that they discuss that are supposed to have, like Ezra, it's all about Ezra. Who the fuck is Ezra? No one gives a fuck about Ezra if you haven't watched those shows. It's literally just a name and a hologram you've seen in 2.5 episodes of a series, and the entire motivation for these characters is based around something that had literally less than 3 minutes of screen time and a reference in a few lines of dialogue. But yet it's clearly the emotional center of this entire series. And don't get me started now. I don't even care where they're going with the Anakin thing here. But the sheer fact that the idea that anybody has died in Star Wars is officially over. No one is dead. It's the ultimate in lazy, cheap storytelling is when you can just
is he like supposed to be a Force ghost? What the fuck is that?
So again, like you said, Paul, if you haven't seen Rebels, if you haven't seen I know what that is. It's like a time worm of the Force. Ezra gets trapped in it. Oh. And hold on, my thing.
It's so
but
dumb.
it's like a time
hanging out there in those fucking.
But it's like it's like this Force portal world where you can actually go to different places in history and time. They showed it in Rebels.
This is Star Wars, not Star Trek. This is not Star Trek.
No.
It was in Rebels.
We're not doing time travel.
That world, where you can actually go back. It's almost like Interstellar. You know that moment where Matthew McConaughey's looking at his daughter through. It's like that.
That's the death rattle of laziness.
It's bad.
Unless it's called Back to the Future.
Oh, it's bad. But Paul, you were absolutely right about the Merrick thing. Like all these things where
Merrick.
And I saw Filoni had a stupid T-shirt that says your Merrick things are dumb, or like all your guesses are. And it's like, great. So you're just telling me he was just some kind of cloud of dust from a witch, and he can use the Force
exactly.
Like the Force is. They ruined the Force. They ruined it.
The Force
so you're
means
telling me a
fuck
cloud
all
of dust
in Ahsoka.
Yep.
It means fuck all. It really means nothing. Also, these I like the acting by whoever Lord. What's his name? Banner, whatever. The bad guy. The the gray-haired Balin. Who the fuck are these people? I don't think that they're not necessarily poorly executed on screen, but at some point I thought we were going to get some sort of a flashback to explain why there are Sith within 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Like, how are all these things going on? There's this giant portal to another galaxy because apparently now you can. Oh God! But Luke and Leia are just not a part of the conversation in any way, shape, or form. Like, it's just so forced.
Well, if the galaxy is in turmoil, they would both have an interest.
Yeah, well,
wouldn't there be like a disturbance in the Force with the way that they used to talk to us in the original Star Wars movies? Like, in theory, Luke and Leia should be getting like some sort of twitch that like Ahsoka's running around fighting Sith and worried about Thrawn. Like, and also, you don't think Ahsoka at any point would have been like, you know what? Maybe I'll check in with these Luke and Leia people because I can tell that they're around and they're Jedi and there's no Jedi left. So maybe we should all like huddle up.
Yeah, this takes place after Book of Boba Fett, where she's hanging out with Luke Skywalker when he was trained in Grogu. So it's like she knows him,
really?
and he's just
Jesus.
because this takes place after Book of Boba Fett.
Like, couldn't be bothered to think that Luke Skywalker, like, she's so worried about the Empire, like, and the Empire will come back. First of all, they've done nothing about Thrawn other than just say his name in an ominous manner. So when she talks about, like, the heir to the Empire, why do I believe that one guy is going to make the Empire return? Is there a secret fleet that I don't know about? It's just he's so enigmatic that
Such
the
a
remnants
master of
that are
war.
scattered are just gonna all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
there's
it's
no
so dumb.
explanation for everything, and we're supposed to just accept when these characters say something like, this is a big deal. We're supposed to say, oh, it is a big deal. But I'm hearing this, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about and why it matters.
Yeah.
I have no idea why Thrawn is so scary. Why
Disney
him coming...
should give it back till George. Just let him fuck it up.
Yeah.
They don't even need to do that. It's not that hard. They have all the money in the world. Just hire, like, award-winning screenwriters. The problem is they have Andor, which means that you can split the difference between Andor and Ahsoka. It doesn't need to be the serious, gritty, like, crime tone of Andor to still be good. You can hire a scriptwriter. I mean, honestly, CG, the Toy Story metaphor is perfect. Because you can hire the kinds of people who can write scripts that can appeal to a universal thing that even a child can grab onto, but a well-written, constructed story where there is character development and you give a shit. My problem is not how it looks, the events that are happening, it's that I don't give a fuck about any of it. You haven't given me one reason to care about the events that you are depicting. That's what storytelling is make us give a shit.
Dude, it's Filoni. He's just taken over. He's like, and I think he loves his fans.
Rebels.
Yeah, and it's worse than that. It's honestly worse because now we're supposed to, because a cartoon, like you said, a cartoon's a cartoon. You look at it, it's, there's a sense of disconnection. But when you start bringing, like, I was watching Rebels, like they hang out with Lando, they hang out with Leia, they go meet like Chewie, like, and they run into C3, and so we're supposed to bring in all this backstory that Hera and Lando have hung out and all this, and they've hung out with Leia, and we're supposed to bring all this backstory into a world. And how many times does Hera have to mention to everybody that she's a general? I swear that bitch mentions that she's a general like 15 times. Well, when you're a general, well, I'm a general. And why was she bringing her son on that dangerous-ass mission?
It's so fucking stupid. Everyone's so worried about children, except for when I'm going to literally go into what I know could be the rise of the Empire. But you know what? Let's... Come on, 10-year-old. Let's go.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
For a character that has literally no development. Like, it wasn't even a hyper cleared. I had to, like, double check at the end of that episode. Did he say mom? Like, there's no development. They just throw people on screen, and I'm supposed to get on board.
Yeah. And it was such a cheap setup to be like, well, he's probably going to get kidnapped.
You have to watch Rebels to get this shit, dude. Honestly. And I mean, it's still not good.
It's still not good. Even with that, it's still not good. It's because it's worse because you're trying to bring in a cartoon attitude into the real world, and it doesn't work because the cartoon is so. It's just like out of this world. I can't even think straight. It's just super hyper.
Space whales, dude.
It's so bad. The second Balin
space whales and like time travel and
dude, the whole Anakin thing at the end. And
I
like
was
this
so
was the
annoyed
first.
Yeah, when Balin kicked Ahsoka off the ledge, like that was supposed to be like a, but immediately I was like, yeah, whatever. She's obviously not dead because this is the world of Star Wars now. You guys fucked it up. It's the boy who cries wolf. You can't play that card anymore.
Oh yeah,
you played it so many times that I don't believe that anyone's actually in any real peril at any given moment. So you fucked yourselves at every turn, and not only that, and that's part of why I'm not sure I give a fuck about future episodes, because there's no part of me that will believe that anybody who's going to die in episodes 5, 6, 7, or 8 is ever going to be fucking dead. There are no stakes. Nothing matters. It's all random scattershot storytelling with no development. It's really bad. It's got a great budget. The production is on point. It largely looks and feels like Star Wars, but right underneath that veneer and the shiny surface is the shittiest quality writing you can put on television. And it's crazy frustrating because there's no excuse for it. There are so many talented writers that they could hire that they wouldn't even have to pay a fortune for that could kill it with this shit. That would kill to play in the Star Wars sandbox and tell stories with new and old characters, and they just think that Filoni is the guy.
No. It's
And
awful.
I'm out.
And
Yeah.
well,
And
the thing
I'm
is,
out.
see, this was the first time where Rosario, I thought the way she was, when she was fighting Balin, it was the first time I was like, man, I can see the blocking of this fight. Like when she would reach for the
really?
ball to try to get it, and like I could just see in her, I was like, I can see your blocking movement. Like, okay, what was her deal with every time she was fighting? It was like an erotic thing for her. Like she reminded me of the chick from GoldenEye, you know, that was like,
Yeah, killed you with her
every
legs.
time she was
Yeah.
like about to
video
get in a
game.
fight, she was like, it was like some kind of kink for Ahsoka. I was like, what the hell is she doing? This is like strange.
I might need to rewatch.
Dude, I've watched this episode several times because I'm trying to figure out what the hell's happening. And you're like, you haven't seen, like, I've seen Rebels. I've seen Rebels several times, and I'm like, don't tell me you brought in this space-time force continuum. They've killed the Force. The Force
in a vacuum, though.
is-
I did have fun, but
That's what
I
I'm
did know what the larger. I did know what the larger stuff meant, and then the Anakin thing just is like a little bit of a
I don't even want to know where
cherry
they're going
on
with
top
that.
of a
You don't want
dickweed
to know.
sundae.
You don't.
I really don't. I mean, that's kind of what I mean. Like that moment at the end, I was already like getting there, and then when they ended it with that,
Well,
I was
dude,
like,
if we can time travel,
I'm
let's
done.
go back and not make the prequels.
Yeah, just cut off.
That's what
I
I'm
would have
saying,
rather
like, if-
Jar Jar Binks be Merrick than just a cloud of dust.
If we can time travel, let's go back and fix the fucking prequels. Take out the fart jokes.
remember
Deal
like,
away with little Annie.
It's
Yeah.
a testament to how shitty this writing is that I can feel this bad about it after how strongly I felt about the prequels. Because for all of my well-established hatred of the prequels, I vividly remember the first time in the preview, in the trailers, and then in the movie when fucking Maul shows up and opens his lightsaber and then hits the other side,
was
and you're
fucking
like,
metal.
oh shit.
That
But
was
here's
metal.
the thing. It means nothing now, because now some nameless character has a fucking red saber and it spins around like a fucking
Yeah.
firework that you stick to a tree. It's just so like, oh, he can do this.
Yeah, you
It's like,
can't make him
fuck
like more
off, man.
badass than Darth Vader.
Yeah, so you got this witch, so it's just not even a real person, it's just witchcraft, so it's like, so this Morgan character is so powerful that
bad.
she can create this being out of dust that knows how to wield the Force better than Luke
Also,
Skywalker does
a
in
witch?
the...
Like,
yeah.
what are we doing? Witches? Like, this isn't Dune. Like,
Dude,
what are we
and-
doing?
and the music is
I
just
think
not
they want
good.
him to be like Dune.
And well, they try
Well,
to do
they're-
the thing. They try to say it because
Dune's crazy, man.
I even
I know
noticed
you're right,
in
Curtis.
the.
They're failing. But
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they tried to say it was the Vader theme at the end where they showed Anakin, but it's not the Vader theme. They used a couple notes, but they don't actually do it. And it's, I don't know. Yeah,
They did. They
Did you guys see
calculated
the-
how many notes they would take to have to pay John Williams, and they did one less.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But did you guys see the thing I sent you on
Cheap
Instagram where the
fucking bastards.
promo for the episode has the goddamn Force theme in it?
No.
I think I sent it. Check your. I'm pretty sure I sent it. I literally watched a promo on Instagram for the next episode of Ahsoka, and it's literally got the Force theme in it, and
Dude.
only in a
Holy shit.
promo. So
Ugh.
I don't know what the fuck is going on with the music, but
Yeah.
add it to the list,
Well,
man.
Disney, and while we're at it, Disney, fucking pay your workers, dude. Like, what's up with this strike shit? Fuck y'all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I
go
mean,
check
look,
on something real quick.
the truth is, like, the sequel trilogy had all kinds of issues, but I didn't feel this way about it.
No,
Like,
still felt
at
like
the
Star
end of
Wars.
well, and here's my thing. I'm not saying Ahsoka doesn't feel like Star Wars, and to clarify what I mean by feel is it looks like the world. They are doing
Yeah.
a pretty good job with the ships.
Oh, it looks great. It does look
and
great.
the terrains and the shoot. I'm not worried about that. That's not my issue. If anything, that is part of what makes it so frustrating because it's so tantalizingly close. It's like picking a perfect like a perfectly ripe strawberry visually, and then you bite into it and it's fucking terrible tasting.
Ugh.
Like that's what I feel like I'm having. Like, oh, this is gonna be great. Look how cool this looks. This is gonna be delicious. And you bite it
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
like, fuck me, that's terrible. What is this shit? They
What
got me
is
again.
this?
And it's like, and I'm getting to that point where now I've eaten 10 shitty strawberries. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to eat any more fucking strawberries. I'm fucking done.
And it's just moving. I feel like
done.
it's 4 episodes in, and we're almost halfway through. I feel like we could have gotten all the information we've gotten out of this in 2 episodes. It's just slow. I find this to be extremely slow moving.
It's
I don't
slow because we don't
I don't
care
even really
about
know.
the
I'm
characters.
just kind of Yeah. I'm just kind of
Andor,
confused a little bit.
If you compare scene to scene, Andor was far slower in terms of action.
Andor was slow.
It was super slow, but we were on board because we were invested in the story and the characters. So the quote-unquote slow pace didn't hurt us as much because we were genuinely wanting to see how this is going to affect this person and what's the next move as a result of this. You know what I mean? And then when you get to where it does pick up from an action standpoint, those moments, I can still picture the first time that fucking episode with the what looks like the Northern Lights going on and the TIE fighters. It was an impactful, memorable moment in a Star Wars story, and I don't have a single fucking one of those from any of this shit.
And guess what?
But I can still picture Jack Black and Lizzo. I can picture that.
Oh God! When people died in Andor, I don't even know. They were dead.
That looked like something from like on cable in the 90s.
Yeah, totally. That's like what?
Or not even cable, a free channel.
A free channel.
I don't know.
Dickweed at 11.
It's like when you go to Austin. I love my favorite thing about going to South by Southwest is watching the public access TV in Austin. It's like the most hilarious channel of television I've ever watched in my life. It's just a public where you could just buy a time. So it's probably they just pick them up from that. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It's just I'm not excited at all.
I don't know where to begin with this episode. It's just it just confirmed everything I didn't want to be true. Let's put it that way. Everything I've been resisting accepting as the new normal for Star Wars, which means I'm officially out the game, which we texted about this yesterday. It's so it is a triple dick punch because we really got lulled into a false optimism with Andor and even the first 2 seasons of Mando, which I'm still on board for. Like we had reason to be stoked.
Excited. Also, like Force Awakens, I was on board with. People were like, "Oh, it's a rehash of A New Hope." I was like, "I know, I know,
give me the rehash."
I feel like we had to. I feel like we had to do that to kind of reset from prequel hell.
Yeah,
and I was like, so now we can go and try to do some exploration. And from Ryan Johnson did try to explore a little bit, but the biggest thing is just like, why didn't y'all have a cohesive plan?
Yeah, it would have been great if they did.
Director.
Yeah, if they had a plan.
Rise of Skywalker feels a little bit like this shit to me. It's like that was if you look at the tone of I actually enjoy Rise of Skywalker as a fan film. But if you look at the tone of The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker, it's almost as if it's not from the same trilogy.
Yeah.
I think
they didn't even use like the same color correcting and shit. Dude. Like they went like way more modern and weird and crazy.
I think obviously we've talked a lot about some of the failings of the sequel trilogy, but the reason that's fundamentally a different experience for me than these series is that while they fucked up the story ultimately in the end, the characters were good, and they
great characters
developed enough to where I liked and was invested in what was going on with the characters. Poe Dameron,
immediately too.
Rey and Finn are new great characters. Like if they had done even after the failings of the sequel trilogy, and I don't know if I've heard rumors that there are, I can't remember, but there's some talk that like there might be another film or two with Rey. Like
they're doing it with Rey. Yeah, they are.
That might be good depending on who makes it, just because they did succeed in making me care about the Rey character. Like they killed it with that character. If they had done it even better, they would have created an entire new 20 years worth of stories based off of the new Luke Skywalker would be Rey.
Oh yeah.
I
think they were hoping for that because Disney went double down on that. They
almost got it. They almost got it because I'd be interested in a Rey thing. I'd at least show up with some level of enthusiasm.
Oh, I know there is because she was at the Star Wars celebration. Go for it, Curtis. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, regardless of how you feel about Ryan Johnson's choices during the Last Jedi, it is an extremely well made and well written film. Yeah. Regardless of how you feel about the choices, but it was well acted, well written, and extremely well made, and it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, and it was simple too. Like when you think about the context of each OG Star Wars movie, it was a simple thing. Like a lot happened without not a lot happening, if that makes it. Empire starts on Hoth, and then Luke goes to Dagobah. They go to Cloud City, and that's basically the only places they go. But you learn and you feel so much because they did
you're
such
hanging
a
out
good
with Yoda,
characters.
actually feeling
and
shit.
the same thing was with the sequel trilogies, that you felt for these characters. I mean, they were floating in that space just out of range of the big Star Destroyer in Force Awakens, and same kind of pace, but it was all about character development, and that's what's lacking in this new stuff.
Which is kind of extra insulting, though, because in a series format, there should be plenty of time for character development. It's not like they're working within a 2.5 hour window to tell their story.
You've
like,
got 8 hours.
9 fucking hours? Then fucking, if you can't figure out
it's very
how
tough,
to,
I think, with these series.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it? Like, why is it so hard?
I think you have to be an exceptional writer because there's so much more... very often, very rarely for me am I engaged through most series. It's like, like some of Breaking Bad, like that first season of True Detective, Andor. A lot of times, like, I feel like they're like, oh shit. When it's like a closed series, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's weird. It's one of I've said this before. I think Tarantino movie. He came out with The Hateful Eight, and the movie I thought it was okay. I didn't love it. But then he released...
It's not his best, in my opinion.
But he released a 4-part, because he was supposed to be longer, like a show. He released it like a 4-part, which made it like way longer, and I thought that was phenomenal. So it's like... because the movie I didn't love, but this 4-part, which added probably like an hour and a half to 2 hours to the...
Wait, 4-part what?
He released... Because I think he wanted it to be a show. So after the movie came out, he released a 4-part, I think 3-part of that movie, and it was way better. Like, it actually went from this movie's not so good to, wow, this is actually a really, really good show.
Wait, it's broken up into pieces?
Yeah, well, no, it's longer, because I guess he wanted it to feel like that. So he adds like a good hour and a half to it.
Oh, but it's all one film.
Yeah. Well, it's 3, in 3 parts, and so it's like you watch it like a show. Like I watched like one episode, and then I watched.
He'll flash up like a part 1 title card, part 2.
Yeah. It's like in chapters. Which I thought was great.
Right there.
Because I got
it. I say hand the whole thing over to Tarantino.
Give it to him.
Honestly, you could. That's the problem. Is what's so bad that you could hand it to anybody and it would be better. Like that's the thing.
I think if just Favreau by himself, I think would do good.
I want to believe that, but I will also want to believe if he's as talented as I think he is, that he should be aware of how shitty these scripts are that they're making into giant budget series. Like, this is doing damage to the franchise. I recognize, by the way, that we are at this point aging out of the core demographic, but I don't think that we're like 1% either. There will be a whole section of the fan base that's like us, that grew up on these movies, that are going to say, no, enough is enough. I'm not going to participate in this anymore.
Well, I think that's what just like quote unquote Gen X is doing. They're just like, I'm not dealing with it. And the only thing keeping us from watching most of this shit is the fact that we have a fucking podcast.
Yeah. Right. I mentioned
brings us full circle.
Yeah.
And like that's not even enough.
It's hard.
It's because of the stakes. If I could find a way to just keep watching all these things and not like doing it on my own time, not waiting for the day it's available, and then it not affect the way I overall feel about Star Wars, I wouldn't care as much. But unfortunately, I don't think I can do that. I think that the more of this stuff I watch, because I feel like it's starting to happen, when I think about Star Wars as a concept now, I start having all these memories of all of this shit. It's like the stuff that I love is starting to get buried underneath another bad show, another this, another that, and then it's like I gotta like dig deep in my brain to just live in the part that feels great, you know? And the truth is, because they've made so much shit, if I stop watching all the bad series, I do have more than I used to. I'm gonna have 2 seasons of Andor. I'm gonna have Rogue One. I'm someone who's not mad at
Rogue One.
Sequel trilogy is not great, but I'm not upset about it. So I've got the OG trilogy, I've got a sequel trilogy, I've got 2 seasons of Mandalorian and 2 seasons of Andor and Rogue One. Like, that's a fucking like 12-hour situation going on right there. No,
don't forget about those 2 Ewok movies.
The Ewok,
right.
The cartoon.
The Ewok fucking dickweed adventure.
Yeah, with Adventures of Dickweed.
Adventure on Dickweed Island, and I don't know. Those things are hilarious, but they don't. Those things know they suck.
The only thing I'm interested in coming up, other than Andor, I've mentioned the Acolyte, because they have described it as an Andor type show that is dark and focuses on early day, like when the Jedi first started, but it focuses on the Sith Lords and how the Sith came into being.
But when they say Andor dark, does that just mean it's going to have a grittier feel, but it's still somebody like Filoni putting all the ideas together?
I don't think it's Filoni, but I think they're like Andor style writing and pace, but like with a like just focusing on the Sith Lords.
I just
but
like Andor style is like a way. There are plenty of people who can attempt Andor style and make something fucking terrible. You have to hire talented writers that have a resume of being able to demonstrate that kind of
literally one person on the planet.
The other thing is, I want to be stoked on that too, CG. But the problem is, if we're supposed to now, if the Star Wars canon is now accepting all of the things that Filoni has introduced in the context of the Force and who uses it, how it's used, then anything that has to do with the Jedi or the Sith in any timeline instantly now makes me nervous, because I genuinely feel like they have fucked up the Force and the concept of Jedi, and it's really hard to forgive that and to shake off those feelings.
It's not special anymore. It's not rare.
Not special. Yeah, they've taken it. It's.
Did you guys know that aluminum used to be the most rare metal on the planet, but then they found out a really cheap way to process it, and now I can go to the store and get it for fucking $2, and it's not cool anymore. Used to be.
That's the perfect analogy.
Aluminum.
That is the perfect.
You were a bad motherfucker. Now anybody can get aluminum.
Yeah.
And
Alec Guinness had that OG aluminum. No.
I had some aluminum. I used aluminum for
this episode killed the Force for me. Yeah. Yeah, I made some potatoes.
I mean, yes, this episode killed the Force for me, but it wasn't this episode. It was 2.5 seasons of shows killed the Force for us, because they've been fucking with this for a long time on multiple series. That's the problem. You know,
Mando,
they're just like going
season 3.
It's like all bets are off. They're just gonna anything. They want to do.
Remember that show Obi-Wan Kenobi? That was a fucking shit show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, because was that before Andor?
How many times did fucking Darth Vader, who is basically impotent, and Obi-Wan fight, dude?
Dude.
They should do another series of having just fight. I mean, they probably got at least 10 more minutes before A New Hope starts. They could probably sneak in another 5 fights. They could probably sneak in another 5 fights and just just to completely neuter A New Hope.
If Filoni could, he would. He would bring back every dead character. He'd have all his toys gathered and be like, well, now I can do this.
Yeah.
And just because he got his head cut off, he could just tape it like in Dumb and Dumber. Pretty bird. And just, you're fine.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, God.
They've officially blown it. They've jumped the shark. They jumped the space whale.
There's nothing.
I don't know.
The stakes are not there. It's just,
I might genuinely be out. I can't say anything with certainty, but I don't know that I'm going to watch the rest of Ahsoka. I have no attitude to avoid it like the plague, but I can say with certainty that I don't have any enthusiasm or anticipation for whatever happens next.
Yeah,
at all.
I mean,
well, let's take a beat. Let's take a beat and then figure out our game plan. And then we'll come back on Andor. Fuck Ahsoka, man.
Fuck.
I say we strike.
Yeah, let's strike.
I say we strike.
It's like I said, it's so easy. It's so easy to watch. It's so easy to, and that's all Disney cares about. Are you watching it? So it's like, yeah, the best thing to do would be to not watch it at all, to not give them. But it's going to be hard for me not to, just because it's like
it doesn't matter. That's the other sad reality as we've been doing this, is that we are not representative. Like the majority of people. I mean, we're at a point now where there's a whole couple generations that think the prequels are good, that grew up watching them. The Rebels and Clone Wars and the prequels is all the equivalent as the original trilogy, which to me is so fucking insane that I can't begin to make sense of that. I don't.
Hurts.
It is what it is. I'm gonna get off my lawn. That's where I'm at. I'm that guy now.
I feel that. Absolutely.
Get off my lawn.
Y'all can go ahead and hang out in the lawn. We'll just move.
Yeah. I don't know. So anyway, there might not be an episode next week, and by might, there probably isn't going to be. We're going to put our heads together. Maybe we'll send up a transmission at some point just to if we decide how we're going to go forward here. But I don't think we want to watch.
Oh yeah.
Like.
If y'all have any ideas on
how
we might be able to move forward, the people that actually do dig this shit, which is not a lot, because this is basically a hobby for us. But the people that do dig it, maybe let us know how y'all would dig moving forward. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Well, shit.
A lot of our audience has already told us they're not watching it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. I mean, I got nothing else. I got nothing else.
100 of them.
It's a bummer note, but Curtis, let's punch it and get the fuck out of here.